cuffed, fenestrated, that kind of stuff. Is that all ringing bells? You guys know what all that means? Okay, what's a cuffed trach? What kind of cuffs can there be? There can be like a blown up cuff, there can be a foam cuff, so there's different types. This is a Bavona with a foam cuff. There's cuff tubes that you blow up, and then there are uncuffed tubes. Mainly the uncuffed tubes, what patient category would those be for? For kids, right. For cuff tubes, if you've got a vented patient, you definitely want them to be cuffed. There's lots of options. I honestly don't know how they choose, like if they're doing a Shiley, Bavona, Cortex, it's probably just what each of the hospitals, what they can buy. Fenestrated, you guys know what the fenestrated trachs are for? For what? Raise your hands and say so I can't hear you. What? What are the fenestrated for?
So it doesn't, if it causes it, the inmate can still breathe.
Okay, what other reason would you think there might be fenestrations?
Is it used more as like a weaning mechanism so then they can try and breathe around the tube?
Perfect. What would be another reason we would do fenestration? Correct? What would be another reason? Great. That's really the main reason, the talking, to allow the air to go through and it passes through the vocal cords. What's the reason we put a trach in?
Long intubation?
Okay, what's a long-term intubation?
Isn't it?
Okay. What other reasons would you do a trach?
Transfer them to
Okay. Okay, good.
help wean?
Okay, right. All right. What kind of experience do you guys have with trachs? I have a patient when I was a brand new RT, which was about 24 years ago. I had just gotten out of the Air Force and I had come to a trauma facility at Santa Rosa. And we had a patient, I was about 23 at that time, and there was a patient about 27 in a motor vehicle accident. And I remember it really hitting home because he wasn't much older than me in his life. He had been drinking, his life was basically over. I mean, he was traumatized from the body down. He had a trach, I don't think I've ever seen a patient that's coughed harder than this guy. So finally we got him out of ICU, we put him into the long-term rehab kind of a place. And I was new, that place had a bunch of residents. They called a code overhead and they had this guy, he was just getting ready to be decannulated. But because of his cough and he had so many secretions, we just had kept the trach in there. They called the code, and I remember running down the hall, I remember like it was last night. This guy was sitting in the middle. He had coughed that tube out with the cuff. We were talking about blood, and Missy, you wouldn't like it, like, wow. Okay, so I'm the first one to get there, and right, you just barely touch it, and his cough was so just coughed it out, blood everywhere. Thank God the residents came up. I'm telling you, I was freaked out. So my whole probably 20 years later for respiratory, I was terrified of trachs. Terrified. I went to Oklahoma and we ventilated so poorly there. Hopefully you know you have to go to Oklahoma to work. They, seriously.
Well, you're really selling me on it.
The place that I worked at, so you guys are saying 2 weeks. We would ventilate so poorly, so bad ventilation modes that we would have patients vented for 3 weeks. And they had a whole floor. I don't know how many patients, 50 patients with trachs. So that's where I got my experience. Vibra, capital transition here is going to help you. It's invaluable experience. If you know how to handle a trach, the nurses are going to be your best friend. I always say, feel comfortable with your equipment, whether it's a ventilator, whether it's a trach. So you have to know your parts. And try not to be afraid. Like my story scared me forever. I was terrified until I got hands-on. Now I can close my eyes and throw a trach in. So hopefully you'll get to your point once you leave your 5th term rotation, which you get to stand up. Just don't be afraid. Take the initiative to go to those places, do trach care, get your hands on, get comfortable what it feels like, and just practice. So let's talk about the different parts of the trach. Can you name parts? What's this?
Inner cannula.
Okay. What is this?
Obturator.
Okay. So there's single cannula and there's a double cannula. Patient, this would be an example of a single cannula. meaning there's not an inner cannula that we change out. The reason they would use this would be that there's a patient that doesn't have as many secretions maybe, and we're just trying to give them an airway. Somebody that has lots of secretions, you would definitely want to have the inner cannula, so just in case it gets plugged up, you could take it out, replace it. The different trachs have the different inner cannulas. That's one thing I tell you to get comfortable with, is how your trach functions. Because this one's a little different. This one squeezes in and pokes out and goes like this. So you want to make sure that you know how each of your trachs function, okay? The different 8 DCT, can somebody tell me what DCT stands for? I didn't know, I had to look it up. Disposable cannula. So all of these, I came up here looking at this box going, holy crap, there's a lot of things. DCFN, that's a disposable cannula fenestrated, okay? This was a tricky one. SSVO, you know what that is? The speaking valve that you have oxygen port. So all those little initials mean something, is my point in bringing that up. You're gonna have an XLT trach, which is a super long trach. For whatever reason, you see how that one's a lot longer? Okay.
We told people.
Quite a bit different. I haven't seen too many patients with trachs like this.
Yeah, I just had a patient who actually had to have a super long one put in because he was not, whenever they put the trach in initially, it was going up against the cartilage.
Yeah.
And even though he had still had stitches in, it was out a good 1/4 of an inch from his neck, and it was never put in properly, so they had to put a longer one in.
Well, and I feel like the man that I told you about, I was thinking about when I was thinking about this is, well, that was a long time ago. He probably didn't even have these kind of long trachs. Or maybe he had one that was too long or too short and was tickling back there, and that's why he coughed. So that's why we have so many options. You'll even see, I've seen a couple, the Jackson, there's the stainless steel ones. You see those in really old people. But those were the way that they used to be, stainless steel. Did you have a question? Yeah.
Oh, did you have your hands up?
No.
Oh, we just got confused. Okay. On the speaking valve one, like, what's the difference between that and then like a passive mirror valve? Is that more of like a?
Passe mirror is the popular one, because I was wondering that too today. Like, they're just the same, and I think the passe mirror is that's the name brand.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the most popular one.
Same kind of.
These ones give you free CEUs too, if you want to know that. So
They
later,
give you what?
free CEUs. So forever, along my whole career, I've always gotten a passe mirror to get 5 free CEUs every year when you need them. So just saying.
CCU.
How would they give you?
What is that?
The what? This is a speaking valve. I'll talk about this here in a second. Okay, so we talked about the cuffed, the uncuffed, the fenestrated, the single cannula, double cannulas. The double cannula is just the kind that has the inner cannula inside. That's why they call it double cannula. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Do you have any questions on the trachs? No? Okay. What would be some precautions or some things that we would need to consider when you have a trach? What is being bypassed when you have a trach in? Okay, so what would we need to make sure we're being conscious of? And how would you do that with the trach?
The tray collar, they use the tray collar.
The mist, okay. You could also use, they have these little HMEs.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times, I had a patient that I took care of home care for a couple years, and she, a lot of times they say that they shouldn't use HMEs on trachs, home care trachs, but HMEs these days are such better quality, and it's much easier than having the humidifier, so you can use the HMEs also. What other complication or what other things would you want to be careful with if you had a trach? So what would be some early complications that you would want to look for or watch for if you had a new trach?
Infection.
Granulation. See, granulation would come later, so the longer that trach is in, you're probably going to get some granulomas, you're going to get some scarring.
That's a fun stage out too.
For suctioning, you want to make sure, oh, I wanted to talk about this real quick. Okay, so there was another part about the trach caps. Have you guys, so when you're getting ready to, somebody talked about weaning, you could maybe go to the fenestrated. When we cap the tube, what do you think's happening? Okay, so what do you want to make sure when you cap the tube?
Deflate the cup.
Right.
I learned that the hard way.
Did you? I
Yeah,
did
I
too.
did it the other day.
We all, I mean, I have put,
My patient, I'm
Yeah.
like, you just breathe, and I forgot to deflate the cup, but they're fine.
it's,
Like, you should
it happens, and you know what? You'll never forget it. It's a way to learn. We all have learned a hard thing like that way, like, oh, crap, sorry, whoops.
Otherwise, his heart rate going so high.
Did you realize?
He's okay.
Okay, so speech therapy is the one that's gonna help you with trachs. Why do you think speech therapy is a good partner to have with a trach?
The swallow sound.
Swallowing, the whole thing, everything is different. The breathing, so speech therapy is there to help guide the patient on how to breathe with the ventilator, how to eat, how to do everything now that they have this hole in their chest. What things do you think we would need to do when we're having the patient eat, when they've got a trach in?
Swallow eval.
Well, right. When they, so that's something that could be, if they have aspiration risk hospital, we would not deflate the cuff.
No, I didn't say deflate.
Oh.
I said to keep it inflated.
Oh, okay, okay. But do they do, some patients, they do deflate it if they don't have the possibility for aspiration. Okay, so trach care. Have you guys done trach care at all? Okay. Somebody walk me through the process. What do they use? Saline, normal saline? Do they use water? Were you guys at Lyra?
we were in Capital.
And do they use, because I was curious.
Daniel was that?
What? Oh, you guys are pros at it?
Yeah, we were at Capital.
People just use like the sterile water and like when you're on the next day, people use like peroxide. I think it was like patient dependent too. Like if it was like, I don't know, really gory looking or not. It looked like it was getting infected.
That's it, yeah. Miss Foster and I were talking about, like, what do they, this kit comes with hydrogen peroxide. I have always just used normal saline.
Yeah, so Marshall, they use the hydrogen peroxide, whereas like a lot of times at Capital they just use like normal saline.
Yeah.
It's like a pink bullet basically.
Yeah,
Just
that's
put it on like a piece of oxygen.
Okay.
At Kaiser, the two RTs I work with, one of them said they mix it, they put it underneath the pad, let it bubble a little bit, they take their Q-tips, they'll put the normal cylinder on it, and then they'll wipe everything down, remove the pad that's wet, replace the pad, and then change like the candle and stuff.
Okay. You see, there's lots of different ways, but the main goal is you want that airway and that stoma, you want it to be nice and dry. You always want to make sure you're using the right equipment. So this stuff is specifically made to be used for it doesn't have lint and stuff to get on there. So you want to make sure you use lint-free towels. You're using Q-tips, to clean it. And then just the main thing is don't use ointment or any salve on there because it can deteriorate the skin and the trach. Just make sure it's nice and dry and always leave a good, nice, clean pad on it. And every place does it different, so. How often do we change trachs?
Every shift.
Every shift?
The trach or the inner canyon?
The trach itself.
Inner canyon. How often do we change the inner canyon? What about trach?
Once a month.
About once every 1 to 4 weeks. I usually see it about once a month. Who can change the trach?
We can.
Right?
Unless it was the Bovana, then they got cut out.
Because it was. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Where were you?
at Capitol.
Oh, okay. They sent them out to change these? I wonder why.
Well, so for that individual patient, they actually said that they could change it there. I think she would just freak out so much that they'd have to sit the air.
Oh, that's interesting. Why did she have a Bavona?
Yeah.
Why did she have a Bavona in, you know?
That's what she just came there with.
There have some that I've seen that also you put saline in there. So what are some things you want to make sure when you are blowing up your cuff?
The pressure.
What? Well, rather than plates, how do you know how much you're supposed to inflate it to?
MLT.
What can happen if you have the cuff up too high?
Erosion, trauma. So you do you do the minimal leak tipping?
What's the point of that? Why would you want a foam cuff versus?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't see this one very
Just
often.
doctor's preference.
So, well, I honestly don't know. That's why I was wondering if they had a reason, because most of them I've always seen of these, so they're rare. Like rarely you'll see this one. When if you see something besides the shyly, it always makes me think there must be a reason why they're looking for them. What's your question?
We had to monitor somebody, and it wasn't air, it was
It's foam. This is a Bavona.
yeah, well, was it a Pomona?
So there's Bavona, Cortex and Shyly are,
It wasn't the Shiley, I know.
Yeah,
so
it's
they're
a
blow
Cortex.
up.
But the liquid that we got, it was like a solution that came out of the, it was a
Okay.
liquid in the cuff, not air.
Okay, so see, that was a saline one. Now, I don't know why they use the difference between the saline or.
Okay, yeah, that's why, because we're like, oh, we took out, 8 cc's or whatever it is of it, he started talking, and then that's when the speech therapist came in, and the Hamilton, they couldn't hook up the speaking valve, so they just deflated the cuff, had him chew, do everything like that, and then, we just re-inflated it with
With the saline.
Yeah, I've never, that was the first time I've ever seen it or even heard of it.
Yeah, I've seen the saline filled ones a little bit, not very often. Again, like these are the rarities for some reason, and I don't have a good reason of why. Okay, so here's another thing that I always want to. This is my huge pet peeve. I have walked up to see trachs with this on. What is wrong with that? Yeah. And see, we know that it's too long, but you're gonna have somebody walk up to that bedside and not pay attention, a nurse or some tech, and jam this thing down to their toes. So you wanna make sure it's gonna cause some damage. So you always wanna make sure you have the right size catheter, or right size suction catheter. And then a lot of the catheters, you want to make sure that you're being kind and gentle to the stoma. Try to hold the ventilator circuit up. Here's some different examples of some pads that you want to, just as little possible pressure as you can on the airway. So you guys want to come up and have hands on? Do you have questions?
What are those donuts they put in between the tracheas?
That's this thing right here. So it's a donut. So this